So now that Brayan Bello has signed this extension that should keep him with the Red Sox through the age 31 season, a lot of people are wondering what kind of production should we be expecting from Brayan Bello overall. The Red Sox gave him $55 million, and they're kind of expecting him to become a number 1 or number 2 starting pitcher. But what is a realistic expectation for Brayan Bello, and what kind of potential do we think that he can actually reach? So let's take a look at Baseball Savant really quick and see if we can get some more answers. When you first click on Brayan Bello's page, one of the first things you're going to notice here is his off-speed run value. Essentially what that means is Brayan Bello has an excellent changeup. It's one of the best changeups in the league, and if you scroll down a little bit further here, it leads to a lot of ground balls. He is in the 92nd percentile when it comes to ground balls, so that changeup is devastating to hitters. He's locating it well, and when hitters do make contact, they're making weak contact. But something of note here is that while his fastball run value is below average, his fastball velocity is well above average in the 71st percentile. Basically what this means is that he is not utilizing his fastball to its potential. Scrolling down a bit further here, the most eye-catching thing that I notice is that his sinker itself is not being located very well. You notice that when Bello throws his sinker, it's located right here in the middle of the plate. That's not exactly where you want the sinker to kind of be. A great example of this is going to be Zack Wheeler's sinker, which I'm going to pull up on the screen right now. Zack Wheeler locates his sinker right on the edge of the strike zone. When he's throwing the ball, it's exactly where he wants it to be. He's got great control, and when he does miss, a lot of the time he's missing outside of the strike zone. We're not getting too much contact that's going to be right in the middle of the zone for hitters to swing at. Zack Wheeler obviously is one of the best pitchers in baseball, but he's not the only one that has this similar type of profile with their sinker. Another great example of this is going to be Brandon Woodruff, and his sinker is very similar to Zack Wheeler's. Now, Zack Wheeler and Brandon Woodruff both throw their fastball a little bit faster than Brayan Bello, but overall, Bello should have a fastball that generates more swing and miss. It just doesn't because he's not locating it. This is one of the things that the Red Sox hope that Andrew Bailey can work with Bello on. That way he can take that next level in locating his pitch. As we've seen before, his changeup is devastating and he knows where to locate that. So if he can find the right tweak to locate his sinker effectively, that is going to be the thing that's going to take him to the next level. When we're talking potential for Brayan Bello, obviously the Red Sox view him as a higher rotation guy. Bello's kind of been an average starting pitcher so far. He's got a 102 ERA plus, which means he's about 2% above league average, which basically just means he's an average pitcher. But the Red Sox aren't paying him $55 million because they think he's going to be an average pitcher moving forward. So where's the comp come in? Well, the first pitcher that kind of popped into my head when I was thinking about this was Johnny Cueto. Now, there was no real reason why I thought of Johnny Cueto right away, but when you look at the stats, they kind of back up. Johnny Cueto is basically an average pitcher his first 2 years in the big leagues. Cueto pitched to a 4.61 ERA, had an ERA plus of 93, struck out 7.6 batters per 9, and walked 3.4 batters. Perfectly comfortable with being at the back end of your rotation, but is not really somebody that you want at the top of the rotation. Now, these overall stats, they don't tell the whole picture. Obviously, these are two different types of pitchers, so I wanted to compare a little bit more. Brayan Bello across the board put up a very similar level of production that came with Johnny Cueto in his first 2 years. Something else of note when we're talking about Bello and Cueto is not only that their statistical comparison is very similar, but also their pitch repertoire is almost exactly the same. Both pitchers use a four-seam fastball, sinker, slider, changeup combination. This is the same combination that Johnny Cueto has thrown throughout his entire career, and one of the biggest things that he's been known for is his changeup being a devastating pitch outside the zone. This, of course, sounds a lot like Brayan Bello, but something that separates the two of them right now is Johnny Cueto was able to develop his fastball and slider into elite pitches as his career went on. Something else of note is that in Johnny Cueto's second season, he was heading into the All-Star break and he was absolutely dominating the league. He had a sub-3 ERA and he was primed to make his first All-Star game before absolutely getting shelled in his 2 starts prior to and not making the roster. This would lead into a second half where he was just completely terrible, to be perfectly honest. He had an ERA over 7 in 14 starts and just was not the same pitcher that we had seen in the first half. If this sounds familiar, well, you'd be right. If you were a Red Sox fan paying attention last year, at this point you were thinking, okay, this is the breakout year that we were seeing from Bello, but the second half really didn't mimic those first half results. After July 5th, Brayan Bello had another 14 starts and he had a 5.49 ERA, stumbling through the end of the season. Those are the same type of results that you had seen from Johnny Cueto. The next season is where he took that big step forward. Now, obviously, Brayan Bello's only in that second season of his career, but if he is able to develop along the same path as Johnny Cueto, here's the type of season we could be seeing this next year. Cueto's third season in the big leagues was back in 2010. He went 12-7 for the Reds with a 3.64 ERA and 185 innings pitched. Over that time, he pitched to an ERA plus of 112, which meant that he was 12% better than league average, and he decreased his FIP by 0.82. What really allowed him to reach this next level of development was the fact that he was simply just allowing fewer hits and walks per 9 innings pitched. At this point, he still wasn't striking out a lot of batters, but he generated such weak contact on his secondary stuff that it didn't really matter that much. If you're a Red Sox fan and you see this next stage of development and this is the type of season that you get from Bello, I think that all of us would be very happy with that. But again, the Red Sox didn't pay Bello $55 million because they still think that he's going to be this, number 3, maybe a number 2 starting pitcher. They think that he has that potential to be a number 1. So what could that potential possibly be? Well, all you have to do is just go to that next season of Johnny Cueto's career, and I think you're going to see exactly what the Red Sox are hoping for development-wise from Brayan Bello. That was the season that Johnny Cueto became Johnny Cueto. He started 24 games, pitched 156 innings pitched, had a 2.31 ERA and a 171 ERA+, meaning that he was 71% better than league average pitcher. And between 2011 to 2016, Cueto went 82-43 with a 2.73 ERA and 166 starts with a 145 ERA+. He was selected to 2 All-Star games, received Cy Young votes in 3 different seasons, and finished second only to a vintage Clayton Kershaw in 2014. Now I'm going to reel this back in a little bit because I think that we're stepping a bit too far into the future. Bello obviously hasn't even taken that next step of development past that mid-rotation starter, let alone becoming that ace or that person that potentially could be in the top 2 of Cy Young voting. But when we're talking about the potential that the Red Sox see and the investment that they're placing within this young player, this is the type of progression that they're hoping can come from him. Could he potentially end up only being a mid-rotation starter? Absolutely. But is this the peak potential that they can see within him? Is this the type of pitcher that they want Brayan Bello to develop? Is this somebody that Andrew Bailey feels like he can work with and develop into becoming this number 1, this ace, this true dominant starter in the league? Absolutely. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for tuning in to see my face for the first time. And hopefully in the near future, we'll have a lot more content that's coming out like this. Like most of you guys, I do have a full-time job, so this is kind of like a side project for me. But I hope that more stuff like this will be coming in the future, and I hope you guys enjoy the stuff that I've made so far. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you next time.